We've heard of that. That's Order of St. Paul. Augustiner is Augustinian monks. Franciscaner is named after monks, even though it wasn't actually brewed by monks. It's just a branding thing. But yeah, lots of these are monastic, which people find strange. People often wonder why was it that monks were brewing beer? Well, there were several reasons. First and foremost, what you're drinking right now is extremely good for you. If you're in the Middle Ages and you're starving and you don't have any fresh water, beer is fantastic. So beer made water safe. Also, it basically has the same nutrients as bread. This is liquid bread. In fact, that's not just me being like cheeky. That's true. That is actually for tax purposes. Beer is considered a food in Bavaria, not an alcohol. There's a reason. We are about to walk off into the city with open bottles and no one's going to care because this is bread, legally. I mean, you're not going to arrest a guy for walking down the street eating a sandwich. This is the same thing.
Het grappig is in Tom Cedars.
Yeah. So,
good tea, yeah.
That's one of the great things here in Munich. So monks would brew beer because it was a cheap, easy way to feed the poor. Yeah, you could make a lot of beer, you could make it fairly simply, and then you could use that to make sure that everyone's getting the nutrients they needed. Of course, eventually, the monastic brews turned into more of a premium beverage. That's when they realized that there was money in the old beer brewing industry, and they started actually brewing to fund pilgrimages, to build monasteries, all that sort of stuff. But there's a real special reason that monks brew beer, and it's my favorite. In Munich, we're going to learn about a rule here, a law. That's called the Reinheitsgebot. It's the oldest food purity law in the world. It started here in Munich, November 30th, 1487. And what it did is it limited the ingredients that go into our beer. That's why Munich is so well known as the beer capital of the world. Because since 1487, we have had consistently delicious beer made out of the same ingredients. It was no longer a hodgepodge of random stuff from the forest. It was water, malt, hops, and yeast. That's it. By law, that's all that goes into these beers. Every beer you're going to have tonight adheres to that law. Now, in the original law from 1487, it only had 3 ingredients listed. It just said water, malt, and hops. Because the monks at the time did not understand how yeast came into the game. Yeast is the thing that eats the sugar, the maltose that poops out the alcohol. It's the most delicious way I can describe that process. But originally, they thought sometimes you combine these 3 ingredients and it ferments and turns into beer. And sometimes you combine these 3 ingredients and it doesn't. So when it does ferment, that's because wild yeast has flown in through the windows and wildly fermented the tanks, which is great. And they were actually pretty consistent at making the tanks ferment because of certain superstitions. For example, it's really good luck to have a brewery next door to a bakery because they understood yeast and baking, and that would go up through the chimneys and in through the windows and blah, blah, blah. But they didn't know that. What they knew is sometimes it was beer and sometimes it wasn't. So when it turned into beer, if you're a monk and something good happens that you can't explain, who did it?
God.
God. Yeah. So they believed that beer was a gift from the Lord. Right? And therefore, since it's a gift from the Lord, obviously, it must be our monastic duty to consume as much of it as possible. Right? They thought that he put it here for a reason, so he must want us to drink it. To the point where they really believe that it enhanced their prayer time. Which is effective. I remember several days in college being under a table after too much beer thinking, oh God. That is the first of many bad jokes. Congratulations. All right. But because of Munich monks, the way they believed this, they thought it was their duty to drink it. So they drank so much of their own product into the era of them trying to make money off of it that the city actually put a ration on how much beer, their own beer, they could drink in a day before their prayer time. The ration for a Munich monk was 6 liters a day. Yeah, for Jesus, right. Yeah, fantastic. Okay, so we'll talk more about this. We'll talk more about this beer a little bit later. We're going to get going. I'm ready to get off into the city. What we're going to do in a second is we're going to head down to the S-Bahn, one of the suburban trains. We're going to ride at 3 stops to a place called Isartor. Once there, we're going to go up and we're going to go to the Beer and Oktoberfest Museum. In that museum, we're going to have a beer proba, which means a tasting for the 3 main types of beers you get in Munich these days. So we'll have the proba, we'll have a pretzel, and then we'll head up into the museum, learn a bit more about the beer history. Obviously, the more questions you ask, the better things are. Yeah, let's try and make this as interactive as possible. Because if you just get drunk and I just keep talking at you, it's less fun, I'll tell you. But yeah, once we've done that, then we'll head to dinner. Dinner's going to be at a place called the Hofbräu Keller. the Keller, not the famous Hofbräuhaus.
Oh.
We will end the tour there, but dinner is Hofbräukeller. We go there because it's a really nice 19th century brewery that's turned into a beer hall. It has a nice beer garden, so we can talk all about that history. Once there, we're going to have a dinner that's called a Brotzeitteller, which means a bread time platter, which is, it highlights all the specialties of Bavaria. Basically, it's meat, cheese, bread. Yeah, and beer. That'll also be your first
That's how we'll
opportunity
eat
to
it.
have your proper 1 liter Maßkrug, the 1 liter beer. Yeah, you'll love it. All right, once we're done with that, of course, we will hopefully be experts in beer and how to consume here and not look like a tourist. So that will be the time where I take you to the world famous Hofbräuhaus. Once we get to the Hofbräuhaus, we will talk a little bit of history of that building, and then I will send you inside. That's when I clip your wings, and you get to go in and be on your own, and hopefully use the knowledge that I have bestowed upon you this evening. Sound good?
All right.
Good. All right. If you have already finished your beer, champion, well done.